me from the future here. So you're going to see me build into this case, and I got halfway through the video and realised that I'm going to split it off into two videos. One with me building the system, and I'm going to talk about the case in the build, but I'm going to make another video ranting about the case because it's not great actually, especially for the price. I was expecting more. So if you want to know about the case, then by all means watch this video, but also go and see the case review that will be posted the following day on the same channel, where I go into detail about all the bad things about the case, because there are quite a few actually. Hi there, welcome to Kilobits. Today I'm going to be building a system that should beat a Synology at a similar price point. Basically, if you look on the used market, you can find Synologies with expansion bays that hold around 9 drives, similar to the one I used to have that I'm now going to be selling. And I'm going to try and build a similar system that will outperform it in certain areas, the areas that are important to me and may be important to you. There are a couple of key features that it will be lacking. It's going to be based on Unraid, so certain software things that you might expect from Synology may not be present, and it should outperform it in the areas that matter to me. So the Synology will use a RAID system, and Unraid, by its very title even, is the opposite to that. It's more like a JBOD with parity. But the benefits of that are things that are important to me, which is power savings. So currently my Synology was using 100 watts and it had 7 drives in it, and a low power CPU. So that's just because the hard drives were all spinning all the time, whereas you can tell Unraid to power down drives when you're not using them. So that was important to me. Also, I can have a much faster processor all within the same power envelope, and it will help me run Plex from it. That's simply what I want to do with it, is just have it as a backup server and it run Plex to 2 clients. So it's not an amazingly powerful Plex server. It would stream more 1080p streams, but if someone wanted to stream and transcode to 4K files, it will, well, 1440p files in HDR, it will just about cope, or that's what I'm hoping, and we'll see. But for today's build, it's an all new build, and it comes to approximately 300. I'll list the parts and the prices as we go. So I've got a 300 watt power supply, so this is overkill, very overkill, but it's a Silverstone 80 plus 80 bronze. It was 50 quid, and I believe it's non-modular. We'll find out when we open it, but it's got no glass window or anything, so cable management, not too much of a problem with this. I'll put that to one side for the moment. And another one of these, I used this in a previous build, not this exact one, but another one of these, which is a J5040 from ASRock. They're not bad. They're not bad for the price and for how much power it uses. Not bad. So yeah, on with the star of the show realistically. This, the Silverstone DS 3080. I believe it was 3080B, but it just says 3080 here. So it's a micro ATX server case basically. It has 8 hard drive hot swappable bays and 4 SSD bays. So I'm going to have on the motherboard 4 SATA ports and a PCIe X1 6 SATA port card. So there is a bottleneck that I need to talk about with this system, and that is hard drive performance will be affected by the SATA card. The motherboard has a PCIe Gen 2 interface, and it only has an X1 slot, meaning that in total I will be able to have 500 megabytes throughput to the 6 SATA ports that I'm going to be taking from that card. So that's less than 100 megabytes per SATA port if you use them all. However, with Unraid and with what I'm intending to do with it, I won't really be using all of them all at once. Maybe occasionally when I want to rebuild parity or something, but that can just go a little slower. As long as it's capable of serving video, I'll be quite happy, and it should still be plenty fast enough. In fact, it should probably still saturate a gigabit network connection, which was what my Synology did anyway. So although the RAID that was on the Synology was very quick, and in a VM you could get a gigabit a second moving files around inside the Synology, as soon as you hit that 1 gig NIC network interface on the back, it went down to 100 megs a second. So I'm probably going to put a 2.5 gig NIC in this, a USB one, or maybe a 5 gig, although if I get a 5 gig, it'll be 5 gig USB ones are limited to about 3 gig anyway, so I might just get a 2.5 and call it a day. So it will still be quite a large improvement in that respect over a Synology. But anyway, on with the case, the star of the show. If you were following this build at home, you need to ask yourself, can you afford better? If the answer is yes, then maybe it would be worth going with, and you're not too worried about power consumption, maybe it would be worth going with a different motherboard combo, maybe with a Ryzen system or something. But there are benefits to getting the Intel one, which is Intel QuickSync, which is going to help a lot when it comes to not having a graphics card and yet still transcoding video, whilst keeping the power, and also at the same time it's a 10 watt CPU, and I think it's a 10 watt GPU, so in total you can only use about 20 watts from the board anyway, realistically. Maybe a bit more once you add RAM and stuff in, but anyway, this is my unboxing. As you can see, I'm a master at unboxing. I just whip open the box and flip it upside down, and out upside down, but I don't care too much. Let's get it the right side up and have a little look at it. I'll bring you in a little closer. Okay, it's pretty small. It's pretty small. There is other videos knocking around the internet that do show this case in quite a bit of detail, so I'm not going to go too mental with it. So I've noticed already there's no thumb screws with it, which is a shame, because this case wasn't really that cheap considering it was 150 I think, and I had to wait quite a while to get it. So yeah, I'm just going to ditch them screws out, to be honest. So there's 2 screws holding on one side panel. Oh, and the other one just seems to be riveted in place, isn't it? Or have I just mangled a screw? No, it seems to be a rivet. Okay, so you can't get that one off. Fair enough, just the one. Okay, not to worry. Let's have a little look what we've got going on here. Turn it so you guys can see it as well. It's fairly thick actually. Fairly thick metal. That is pretty thick. Nice. It doesn't ring when you hit it. It's kind of a dull thud. So again, that's nice. You've got your magnetic. I'm led to believe that's magnetic. Yeah, it just pulls off. That's cool. And it's got quite a fine mesh on it. That's also pretty cool. 2 fans on the side there. Nothing on the front, fan-wise. But that's cool. Inside, a bag of goodies. I think if you want to use a a PCIe card, which I'm going to be using, PCIe SATA card, you actually lose a hard drive bay. But because I'm only using a PCIe SATA card, and they're quite small, and if necessary, I have a PCIe X1 riser cable, so I might just be able to fold it over and tuck it in out of the way, so I won't be losing a slot. But this comes with a few goodies actually. I'm not exactly sure what all of it is yet, but I'll find out at some point. There you've got, there's a Molex power there, up near the top, there, there, oh, there and there, sorry. You've got SATA power, and then you've got SAS or SATA ports depending on what type of drives you fit, all the way up. So that's nice. I see. It's going to be difficult to show you. Ah, yeah, just about. You can just about see it. So if you fit a PCIe card, it will fill this gap here. So you could get a graphics card in there, you see, and then you have to blank it off from the front. Otherwise, you just see your graphics card. But yeah, not bad. And that's about the case, really. Apart from that, you've just got your general internal USBs, which I'm untying now. I'll move back in position in a second so you can see what I'm up to. Perhaps I'll bring you on in tight for the build process. But so your USB 3, HD audio, little tie to hold it all together, and your front panel connectors. For your front panel connectors, you get power switch, reset switch, power LED, and hard drive LED. So you get the full set, plus your 3 fans. Are they individual on the front too? Difficult to tell. You've kind of got to fish for the cables. But yeah, they're individual. So what I'll probably do with these front two is run a splitter so they're both connected to the same, and put that on the chassis power maybe. Okay, let's do this thing. Manual, CD, backplate, I need that. M.2 Wi-Fi screw. This is the second one of these I bought. The first one came with 4 SATA cables, which I've used. This one only came with 2. I have opened this box and blagged the SATA cables for a different build. The one in the previous video, I wanted some nice looking SATA cables, some new nice looking SATA cables, because what we've got with for this one is old funky SATA cables, red ones and so on, which is fine. It's not going to be seen, and there's not going to be very many SSDs. I've got a couple of nice ones for the SSDs. Yeah, so there's my SATA cables. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Stick the board in the thingy. I'm still waiting on one component, the SATA PCIe card, which isn't due for a few days yet. But I'm not going to drag this video out. I'll just edit it together so you'll see it magically appear in a minute, and I'll be dressed in different clothes. And I'll explain to you that already I know that there's a problem with it. There's a problem with all of them. They're shit. Really, everyone recommends you get HBA cards, and that won't be possible on a build like this because there's only a PCIe X1 slot. So I'm doing what I can, and even with that limitation, I think it's still going to be a good system. So that's why I said maybe if you had the money, you might want to look at a slightly different solution in terms of the motherboard. But when it comes to power, I don't think this thing will be beaten really. So all I'm doing now is taking the twist ties off of all the fan cables, just so that I can hang them outside the case and they're out of the way. And then I can build around it. Stay. Bastard. Right, okay. Back panel. Have a little look, make sure I'm not mental. Yeah, I'm mental. Stuff it in that way round. Nothing worse than stuffing these in the wrong way. Right, that's in there. Standoffs. Yeah, we got 4 standoffs. 4 holes. That seems about right. Perhaps I'll put the RAM in first. Put the RAM right here. eBay special. Just go on to eBay, type in SODIMM DDR4. I'm going with 8 gigs of Samsung used, 20 quid. Prices vary, obviously, it's used. And I'm going with the highest this board will support, which is 2400 megahertz, which is not so bad. So, 8 gig should be plenty for what I want to do, really. Like I say, it's just holding files and serving Plex, 1080p and 1440p. I downscale all of my 4K files to 1440p just to save a little space and make it a bit easier on GPUs and so on. Okay, so there's going to be a bit of a continuity error in this video, so I apologise, but it's kind of inevitable. I have to take off this hard drive thing, which there's 4 screws there, and there, and then there's 2 at the bottom, and then I believe this whole section comes out. Oh, it came out. And it was nearly impossible, so I just took it all out and I'm doing another take. Wow, that board is slightly sticky, and it's brand new, that's odd. Odd. Right. Now, what are you doing over there? Get out of the way, you. Now I can install it, which with a mountain of cables attached to it is not the easiest thing, but it's got to be easier than installing them in this tiny little hole. So this part's going to be in the middle, but you should know that it's quite a bit later on. I've had to wait for some bits to arrive. So with this build, obviously I've got 8 hard drive bays plus some SSD bays at the back, and I've only got 4 SATA ports on the board, so I'm going to have a SATA card, and I believe I've already explained the limitations of doing that, in that I'll only be able to have 500 megasecond come through there, but that's what I've got to do basically. So you've just witnessed the unboxing. There's not much driver disc, yeah, fuck that. There's not much to these things, and I already have one of these and I've tested it previously and I found that it overheats, but you can get around it with what I'm about to do now. So I'm going to get a small fan, attach it to there. That solves the overheating issue. So then the only issue is it's limited to 500 megasecond, which isn't going to be terrible. I'm only going to have, well, it's not going to be fully populated to start with. It's only going to have a couple of hard drives on it to start with, and then as I start expanding, it'll start filling up more, so it'll become more and more of a problem as time goes on. But I generally only access 1 drive at a time anyway, so it's not really going to be too much of a problem. So all I've really got to do is glue that on there, or use a foam pad or something, and then solder on a decent end onto that, so that I've got a fan connector, or maybe a Molex end, but either way I'm going to have to drive that probably from 5 volts, otherwise it'd be way too loud. I don't want it spinning at full rate, and in my testing, because like I say, I've got another one of these, and that's exactly what I've done with the other one, and that's coping with 4 drives on PCIe Gen 3. So because this is shot in the future, I can let you into a secret that this thing runs quite well actually. I did some initial testing with a board exactly like this exact model on Windows as a Plex server, because I'm using it as a Windows daily driver. I thought I might as well test what it was like under Plex, and I could get sort of 1 and a bit streams, depending on the resolution I could get to. Under Unraid, because there's less draw from the operating system, I can definitely get 2 1440p streams, which is perfect. And in fact I could get 2 just about while running Handbrake, as long as I limit Handbrake to the lowest possible priority, so that it basically stops when you are actually streaming. Okay, so there's room for the card, that's not an issue, and there's room for the fan there, and that's not an issue either. So I can just stick it wherever I like, really, as long as I don't go below. I mean, yeah, below there realistically, but that'd be touching the board. I don't fancy that. I'll probably just keep to the base of the fan heatsink and call it a day, really. Wait for it to dry, install it. That's about it. So come with me as I get my glue on. So let's just wang a bit round there, and go up here a little bit, and up here a little bit, trying to let it flow onto the blades or my table. Pop it down there. Then I'll come back in 5 minutes and put more glue in places. That's not sitting very flat actually, why is that? Just balance something on top of it. Right, come back in 5 minutes. Okay, so the glue should be fairly dry by now, but on with the next part of the mission. So, as I may have said, this ends in some sort of tiny little connector that's basically useless. So I'm going to convert it to Molex. I happen to have this Molex to floppy cable knocking around. I was tempted to put a fan thing on the end of that, but I'd still have to then convert. I don't have any more fan headers that are definitely going to run at 5 volts, so I might as well just run it from 5 volts straight from this. Anyway, so if I offer it up against the Molex cable here, because these are all black cables, I can see that the red cable is the far right one, so I want those 2 far right ones. So I don't need these 2 far left ones. I should probably unhook them, take them out entirely actually, because what I don't want to do is short circuit on anything. But de-pinning them's not that difficult. Though it's difficult if you don't have the right tools. Let me just get some tools together. Oh, what's this? That might do it. Yeah, the right tool, the lead from your multimeter. These are pretty easy to de-pin. There's like 2 little flappy bits you gotta get. Yeah, see, there's 2 little flappy bits. Not that anyone really uses Molex anymore, but there and there, if you push them in, you can take these out, and that's useful sometimes. I mainly use it if I want to either consolidate. I've got a 12 volt item and a 5 volt item, both using Molex, and I want to consolidate them, or I'm looking to take something like this where it's supposed to power a fan, 12 volts and I'm trying to turn it into a 5 volt one, which is something else I've got to do. If you can hear fans whirring in the background, that's because my main rig has got to have a similar kind of thing done to it, to be honest, but it's busy rendering and I wanted it just to get on. There we go, the old Teeth Stripper 5000. So tin these up. These don't look like copper at all, so that's nice. I bet the soldering ain't going to stick to these. This is shit cable. And with my special $3.99 eBay jobby soldering iron, it's sticking. They're sticking. Good. Teeth Stripper 5000, patent pending. Right, one more time before I commit. Definitely red cable is that one, that one. Okay. I should have really got the helping hand, shouldn't I? I found a way. Do you know, I had good intentions when I bought those helping hands, but I barely ever use them, even though I really should. I should probably shrink wrap this as well, but there you go. I tend to only shrink wrap things if they're in indoor use, outdoor use, because I am a bit lazy, but I will use a mountain of electrical tape. Bendy. Bit of jiggering. Come on then. That's got it. Right. So that's 5 volts to the fan. So take that up, whack it in. One thing I'd like to say about this case also is, this isn't necessarily a criticism, this is more like advice. If you actually want to take the cable management seriously, then take that bit out. It does actually say that in the instructions. I did see that briefly in the instructions. It's like page 1. I looked at page 1 and went, I'm not reading this. And yeah, you can get the cable management quite good if you take that bit out and then start running things around the fan. Yeah, that's not praise of the case, that's just me telling you how to use it. Yeah, I'm still not happy with it. You should be able to take that back panel off, really. I know the fans are mounted to it, but even then, even if the fans have to stay mounted to it, so what? I've had cases with side panels where you can take the old acrylic window where you could take the side panel off and there was a fan mounted to it. You know, it's not unheard of. But no, they give you this monstrosity. So anyway, I'm screwing in SSDs and you shove that there. And the 2 for the side panel, 5, 6 thumb screws. It doesn't come with those, but I have them. I've been collecting them for years, never thrown a thumb screw away yet, and I probably never will. You never know when you could just deploy a thumb screw and make your life so much better. I remember a time before thumb screws even. The case industry's moved way past thumb screws now, but I remember a time when all you had was crappy silver screws. Then your PC, well, I remember a time before PC even. Or before everyone had the PC. My first PC, well, it wasn't a PC. The computer I'm going to talk about now used to load from tape. I bet there's going to be, I'm going to have a few followers who know what I'm talking about. I had a ZX Spectrum. In fact, I had several ZX Spectrums. Loved my Spectrums right into the 90s. Loved my Spectrums still. When I was a lad, I used to buy the magazines that had the tapes on the front. Magnificent 7, Grey 8, which was how many demos you got on each. Oh, I'll just kick the phone there. How many demos you got on each cassette? They'd have competitions to see who could have the most software on their cassette tapes. It was a good time though. It was, you know, I mean, if you look at how the software was by today's standards, it's pretty terrible, but you know, at the time it was great, you know. Look at that graphics, 100 by 100 or something resolution, 2 colours. You could have 16 on-screen colours. I can't remember the resolution, but something terrible. You know, games would run. You'd be happy with 4 frames a second or something, depending on what it was like. If it was like an isometric game or something, you'd be fully understanding of the fact that it ran at 4 frames a second. And 20-minute load time. You could say, I want to play a game, but dinner will be soon. I know, I'll load it now, and then I'll have my dinner, and by the time I come back after dinner. So in theory, that should power all the drives. Oh wait, I was going to do the first 3, but I seem to have not realised that there's a slot even higher up than that. Oh, see, how are you going to get that one off with that there? Oh, that's impossible as well, isn't it? That's impossible. Perhaps not if I come in at an angle. She's in there. Oh, I could have just taken that one and put it up there. That would have been easier. What a twat. There we go. Right, that's on. So that's, apart from working out what goes on with this front bit, that should be it. I know it's bad karma to put the side panel on, and I probably will end up opening it again, but I'm just putting it on for a moment. while I work out what goes on with the rest of it. Supposed to be a key or something for that, isn't there? I keep kicking this camera. Huh. Alright, whatever. About the same as the Synology one realistically. Okay. For front panelage, so I'll bring you in a bit. For front panelage, okay, you can't see because of the contrast. Well, never mind. They look a lot like Synology ones in a lot of respects, but they're not toolless at all. We're going to have to screw everything into them. And I'm only using the Thirst Free today, so that's all I've got to add about with. Let's go and get me some drives. I'm going to have 2 parity drives, and I'm going to make sure that they are connected to the motherboard. And my data drives will be connected to whichever one they can get their hands on. So the one that's accessed most frequently will probably be connected to the motherboard. And then when I run out of motherboard ports, which will be immediately, because yeah, I can have the 2 parity drives connected to the motherboard and my 2 SSDs connected to the motherboard, and that will be it. And then everything else will be connected to the SATA card. And as I said earlier, the reason I'll do that is because the bottleneck is the PCIe Gen 2 X1 interface. That is the bottleneck with the whole system, and that is limiting the throughput to 500 megabytes a second, which is quite the bottleneck really. When you start adding 6 hard drives in at 200 megabytes each, you can use that up pretty quickly. 200 megabytes a second each, sorry. So you can use that up pretty quickly. That's the wrong screw. There's the right screw. But it won't matter. It won't matter, not really. I mean, it's a bit of a waste. I've got WD Golds, and I'm not going to be able to get full performance out of them, but it doesn't matter. If I'd have known, I wouldn't have bought Golds. But I've got them now, and they're good drives, so you know, might as well use them. Now I see why there were so many screws in this bag, because yeah, you need them. At the moment I'm running Plex from my other one of these motherboards with Windows running on it, the one I just use for day-to-day browsing the web and stuff. I've got Plex running on it, and then it's been accessing the files from my Synology, which means the iGPU, it is not free half the time basically, so performance is not ideal. Originally I used to run it all from a Threadripper system, up until a couple of months ago. I used to run it all from a 2990WX, but it used so much electric. It was good. I could have served a lot of people, but it's only me and the ex-wife who wants to access it. And I only let her still access it. Well, I'll let us access it for 2 reasons, I suppose. But yeah, it's only me and the X that access it, so I don't need a thread ripper, and I'm not working anymore, so I need to be more low cost. Everything's got to be more low cost. Right, so that's the parity drives fitted. So in theory, I can set up Unraid. I am going to have to plug it into a monitor just for now, but only while I configure the BIOS, I suppose. Huh. What is the idea there then? It's like a little slidey bit there, and I don't know why. Ah, you can lock the... Ah, that's cool. No one's ever pointed that out before. Well, not that I've seen, anyway. So you've got the power button on the front. Where is it? I'm looking in the camera rather. Yeah, you've got a power button there, okay? And then you've got this little switch here. And basically, with it in the forward position, with it in the back position, you can still use the power button. And then with it in that position, you can't. I like that. I might use that, because then my son can't come along and turn it off. Not that he does that, but he might start doing that in a year or so. He's 18 months at the moment. But I thought there was supposed to be a dust cover for that. Perhaps it's living with the side one somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to cut here, and then I'll see you when we're configuring stuff, I suppose. So for anyone not aware, Unraid boots from a USB stick, boots and runs from a USB stick. So in order to increase reliability and so on, I go with a relatively high-end USB stick. They're not very expensive, so it's worth doing that. And I go with the Samsung Bar 32GB USB 3.1. It's massively overkill. Make sure you get a genuine one though. I wouldn't buy USB sticks on eBay. I love eBay, but yeah, don't buy USB sticks on there. Go to a proper shop. I use CCL computers in the UK. But anyway, yeah, get yourself a Samsung Bar. I mean, you don't need 32GB at all, but if it's able to do any kind of provisioning whatsoever, then bigger ones will last longer. I'm not sure if they do provisioning, but either way, I've got a 32GB Samsung Bar USB 3.1, and the beauty of it is, A, it doesn't get very hot when it's running, because a lot of them get very hot, and that kind of kills the flash chips prematurely. And it's all metal, so it's able to cool itself relatively well. And B, it being larger, if there was any provisioning, it would handle many more writes. Now, it doesn't really write to it very often. It only really gets written to when you update something or change certain configuration files. Mostly it boots, it reads it all, stores it all in memory, and just runs from memory. And it only really, there's only about 700 megs stored on it, but I have had one or two fail, and I think it was just the heat, to be honest. So decent USB stick. So now I've just got to go onto a Windows machine. You could do it on Mac or whatever. Go to their website, download the installer, install it to this. I like to set the IP address. You can do that in the configuration file, and the DNS and all that. You can set all that in the configuration file, and make sure you pick UEFI, because by default that's turned off, which I don't know why that's still the default in 2021. I really don't, but Yeah, select the UEFI. So you head on over to the Unraid website. Here we are at the Unraid website. You hit download. You pick your operating system that you're going to be making the USB key from. I click Windows, I've already done that, it's already on the desktop. You get that. Ignore Linus there. There it is there. You run it. You pick the version you want. 6.9.1 is the latest stable, and that's what I'm going to be going with for this build. Click on Customize. That's quite important, because then you can select your UEFI. You can give it an IP address. I recommend giving it a static IP address just because it's easier to find in that case. You give it a name, that's also quite important. I'm going to call it Nasatron. That seems like a good name. I'll give it an IP address that's within the range of my router. That seems acceptable. Gateway, that should be your router. DNS, I'll go with the Cloudflare one. So you click here, select your flash drive. There's my Samsung flash drive. Just double check you're happy with everything. Nasatron, it's got an IP address, a gateway, DNS. That all looks good, yeah. Say you're okay with it, and then write. And depending on your network speed, obviously it's going to take a couple of minutes. It's not a huge download, like I said before, 700 meg odd, so it shouldn't take that long. I've got fibre.